Hi everybody, Mark here with your playlist video for May 2018. This is where I give some first impressions of interesting and intriguing indie games that you might have missed. So let's just jump right in with the first title of the month, Moonlighter. So this is, from a macro sense, just the idea of the game, a really cool game. It's a top-down, Zelda-esque adventure where you pop into dungeons, fight monsters, collect loot, and then, when you've run out of space in your bag or you're starting to run low on health, you clutch your magic pendant tight and return to the surface. Once you're there, you place your loot in your shop, where you can set the price and sell the stuff to townsfolk. The money you make can be spent on better gear and magic potions, as well as investing in the shops that sell them, so you can survive longer the next time you go into the dungeon. So it's a pretty smart loop, right? You fight, you loot, you sell, you upgrade, and you repeat. And I can see it becoming very addictive. I mean, it's similar to something like SteamWorld Dig, but in this case, instead of instantly swapping your loot for money, you actually have to play an entirely separate game. You have to moonlight, as it were, as a shopkeeper. So what does this actually involve? Well, you kind of set a random price for your goodies and then see what your customers think. If it's too expensive, then you can drop the price. If it was a complete bargain, then you can raise the price next time. That's relatively simple, but you also have to deal with supply and demand and watch you don't flood the market and render your best goods worthless. It's clever, but it is a bit fiddly and finicky. There are lots of menus to faff about in and a user interface that just feels better suited to a mouse or a touchscreen than a controller. And you can't use a mouse on PC, but the game is coming to Switch. You will get quicker the more you play, but it definitely feels completely different to the fast, frenetic, hyperlight drifter-esque combat of the dungeon crawling segments. But maybe that works. When you have two very different styles of gameplay in a title, you do run the risk of players really liking one half of the game and being a bit bored of the other. But in this case, or at least for me personally, I like how the slow and fiddly shop segment offers a break and a change of pace from the intense dungeon stuff. So Moonlighter is one to check out, I think. I'm always fascinated by unorthodox gameplay systems, and so if you're looking for something fresh, this one gets a recommendation from me. Pizza Titan Ultra is a cheeky indie twist on Crazy Taxi. You play as a giant mech walker with a pizzeria in its belly who must stomp around a city, making pizzas, delivering to apartment buildings, collecting special ingredients, and even fighting off robot monsters. Sometimes you're just going against the clock, trying to deliver as many pizzas as possible. Other times you're finishing extra objectives like knocking down drones or destroying as much of the city as possible. The first thing you'll notice, however, is the incredible sense of style. From the Saturday morning cartoon theme song, to the chunky cel-shaded graphics, to the funny pop-up portraits, this game just oozes character and quirk. It's really original and refreshing, and I love it. I just wish the game itself felt a bit better to play. The combat is kind of mushy. For example, your attacks have enormous range, so you just sort of spam the right buttons when you're in the general vicinity of enemies. And while it's got this interesting idea of building up and then maintaining speed, the level design makes it tricky to pull that off for long, giving the game an awkward stop and start stalling effect that just doesn't jive with the fast-paced design. You can definitely see the potential for an awesome game in here, but the underlying mechanics just don't feel as fun as they should, and this left me rather bored at times, just kind of going through the motions when I should be on the edge of my seat, like I am in Crazy Taxi. I will give a shout out to the pizza making minigame though. It's a little WarioWare style thing where you plop down pepperonis, bake the base and then slice it into sixes, and that feels more fun and engaging than the actual main game itself, which is a shame. This game could have been huge, it's just adorable and interesting and fun, but it will likely fly under the radar. And then there's Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. So while Castlevania head honcho Koji Igarashi is hard at work on Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, a sort of spiritual successor to Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Inti Creates has put together a little retro-style spin-off that's inspired by the earlier Castlevania games on the NES. It's called Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, and it's pretty dope, to be honest. Inti Creates, if you don't know, were the devs behind the fabulous Mega Man Zero and ZX titles, among other things. So Curse of the Moon is very much like Shovel Knight in that it's a rose-tinted nostalgia piece. It looks, plays and feels like Castlevania 1 on the NES, right down to the sub-weapons, endless staircases, health items hidden in walls, and that awkward fixed jump arc, but with some modern changes to make things a little bit more palatable to our 2018 sensibilities. Those might be visual, like the widescreen display, parallax scrolling, and relaxed palette limitations, and in gameplay. It just feels tighter and more responsive, plus enemies are less annoying. It also has its own ideas like multiple characters you can swap in and out at a moment's notice to let you use their unique abilities. Overall, the game has pretty good level design and cool screen-sized bosses to fight. If you enjoyed any of these retro throwbacks like Shovel Knight or Mega Man 10, which is also by Inti Creates, you've got to check this one out. Hopefully the full Bloodstained experience will be as good. Right, that's your lot for this month. I hope you found something of interest there, and I'll be back in June with some more indie games. Thanks so much for watching and your endless Patreon support, of course. Thanks so much. Bye bye.